Everyone, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to this class. We begin with the faith and revelation. Revelation is the God experience of humans. Faith is mentioned as the first in the title of our subject, but the revelation is what comes first. Faith follows as a response to revelation. But in spite of that, faith is given the first place in the title, maybe because faith is most important for theology. For everything that we do, faith is the foundation. But we begin with the revelation. Though subject is faith and revelation, we begin with revelation, and then we go to faith to understand that. Then in the background of understanding of faith, we go back to revelation again, and then we come to faith, and then we have a kind of a circular or a spiral kind of understanding. Let me put it this way. So here, faith and revelation. Revelation is first. So we begin here on revelation, and then we go to faith, then again revelation, then again to faith. So like this spiral movement in taking the class. By this we proceed in a circular fashion, but also we move to a greater depth. Let me first give you, before I go to this, something about my usual methodology. I will first give normally a summary of the previous classes, so that you are in a continuity with the previous lessons when we go to the class today. Today I will give you a conspectus of what we are going to see in the whole class on faith and revelation, so that you have a rough idea of what is going to come, and you are able to perceive things as part of the whole. The connection between the past class and the present class will be the first introductory few moments of my class. Then we go to the class. And for the class, I will be depending mainly on the class notes. You don't have to write down the class notes. I will let you have the class notes after the class. But you can write down running notes, especially when I am speaking out of the notes, spontaneous explanation, which is not in the notes, but it is about the matter contained in the notes. So your running notes you have to write. It will help you to understand the notes when you read it afterwards. And every day, the text of my notes will be supplied to you after the class, maybe in your WhatsApp group. Your superior or the leader will get, and they will supply the material to you all. You have to read and understand this in the background of the scribbled running notes which you have made. If you have an understanding of the notes and the scribbled running notes, you will be able to understand my class notes easily. If you don't understand anything, if you have some questions of clarification, you can ask me on the same day before the midnight of the day, so that the next day, first thing I do will be to clarify the doubts or give the explanation as required. So you have to study the portion on the same day. Since you don't have to write down the notes, you have to make sure that you study the portion on the same day with the help of your class notes or your running notes. Then you can also refer to the side numbers for the reference to the questions or clarification that you want. So now we come to the contents of the class on faith and revelation. I give you a small conspectus, small bird's eye view. First, we speak about, as I said, revelation. Revelation is a basic human experience where humans experience the divine, the humans experience the transcendence. Every culture has this experience, and there are different religions based on this experience. And we are going to see about the Christian type of experience. And this experience is based on the Bible. The other experiences of revelation, we will come to that afterwards. The different types of revelation, how revelations take place, and so on. But we are going to study about this revelation and faith in a special background and a special context. What are the elements of this context? It is important for us to know, because it is the context that gives meaning to the text. Context. Here, context. Con means with. So context is that which is with the text. And supposing this thing which is with the text is not taken into consideration, then you will not be able to understand the text. For example, I have here white thread and a black thread. You see the black thread, no? Yes. Supposing I hold it against the blackboard here, do you see anything very clearly? You do not see anything very clearly. Of course, the board is not really black, therefore you will see some little bit of color. But if the board were completely black, then you would not make out anything. The background makes the thing disappear. Supposing the white thread has got a black background, you see it very clearly. So the meaning of the text depends very much on the context. And therefore, we have to pay attention to the context in which we are studying about revelation, faith, whole theology. The context of theology determines what do you understand about theology. What do you understand about God, and how you are going to live your understanding of God, that is to say, your faith. How you live depends on this coming together of text and context. What are the elements of our context? We can speak of challenges of the situation. First challenge is the fact of religious pluralism. There are many religions. I will speak about this later on. Then there are other challenges in the context. The atheism, denial of God. Then there is a massive poverty in our country. Our country is not poor, but there is poverty in the country. Then there is another element, the change of thought patterns. Thinking ways have changed in the last few 100 years. Very much different from the earlier ones, in which many of our faith formulations have been given shape. So the thinking is, when the thinking changes, the whole thing will have a difference. I will speak about that. Then we will speak about revelation, begin to speak about revelation. how revelation takes place, the different types of revelation, for example, cosmic revelation, mystical revelation, historical revelation. These are the three different types. Then we'll speak about the purpose of revelation, and then we will see the historical development of this understanding of revelation. We have revelation experienced by people from the very beginning of humanity. In our case, Christians have had experience of revelation from the time of Christ. Before that, the Jews. So the history of revelation is something that will give us insights. History is always development. History is change and growth. There is nothing that does not change. So everything changes. Even the material things change. So intellectual, spiritual things also undergo change according to the change taking place in history. The events and people that are there, they influence our thinking. So we'll speak about the history, how the understanding of revelation progressed from the beginning, how it was in the Jewish Old Testament experience, how it is now, how it has been in the in-between period. So there has been some changes, and changes have been sometimes development, growth, sometimes it has been destruction. It has happened also that the treasure that we have got from the forefathers were lost. Sometimes this treasure was more and more deepened and developed. So we will see both sides. And then one of the things that we have to keep in mind is that with regard to revelation and faith, a negative development has taken place in between period, the in-between period. Therefore, we have to think about the whole revelation and faith now in the historical point of view in a way that is different from the in-between period. We'll come to that more clearly afterwards. So we'll speak about the earlier fathers, apologists, then later fathers of the church, Middle Ages, 19th century, and so on. Then we come to Vatican II. Vatican II took place some around 60 years ago, 1963 to 65. In Vatican II, the modern thinking has been taken into account, and the modern understanding of revelation and faith is based on the insights of Vatican II. So we will see the Vatican understanding of faith and revelation. Then we will go to depth a little bit in the background of this about faith. Faith is response to revelation. We'll see the faith terminology in the Old Testament, faith in the New Testament. Then we will see about the faith in the Old Testament and New Testament by the example of some people of faith. A biographical analysis we will give. Mary, Jesus, disciples, or the Old Testament, you have Moses, Abraham, and so on. Then we will come to the doctrinal historical development, a little deeper. In this, we also will come to understand different characteristics of faith. And we also will realize that faith is not only a Christian experience. Faith is there for anyone. Every human being requires faith. Without faith, we cannot live. Many things are taken on faith. And as you have heard in the introduction to theology, Augustine's expression, glaube ut intellegam, I believe so that I understand. The opposite also is true, intellego ut glaubam, I understand so that I may have I may believe. So both these come together. Understanding and faith go together. So we will see that with regard to faith. And then we will come to the expressions of faith, the historical dynamics of faith. As faith is something which is in our, not merely in our hearts, we live that. And also theology or this, spirituality is also expressions of faith. So that we will come to that, we will study that. Then we will go back to revelation, to have a deeper understanding of revelation. So we will see the word meaning of revelation, then revelation, how it manifests itself, the communitarian revelation, because in Christian history, revelation of God is to a community. So community and God experience. Then there are things in which revelation is, or revelation and faith is covered. For example, myths. You think of myths as stories of old ladies which have no relevance today and no truth sometimes, you know. But that is not true. Myths are expressions of truth in a language of angels and gods and Satan and so on. The language is angel and so on, but then truth is human truth. So the shortest explanation for myth is immanence, life on the ordinary level, in terms of transcendence. Transcendence means God and angels and so on. So immanence in terms of transcendence. Myth is that. So myth contains truth. So we will speak about this in relation to faith. Then the language of revelation. Then we go back again to, from revelation, we will go back again to faith as we understand in Jesus. A deeper experience. So we have just now made one or two turns and we have gone deeper and we try to understand deeply what Jesus means for us in faith. The encounter of faith with Jesus, who is the fullness of revelation. Then we will come back again to revelation, the language of revelation, and we will just describe the different insights about it, and then we will sum up. That is the whole class that I am going to give. So it is a spiral, circular kind of development which goes deeper and deeper. That will help you. Now we speak of revelation and faith first against the context. I mentioned just now about the context. The different elements of the context. Just now you saw how context makes a difference. Apart from these three elements which I spoke in the beginning about the elements of context, there is the modern thinking, I said, against, as opposed to metaphysical thinking. Metaphysical thinking you have done already in your philosophy, metaphysics. Metaphysics speaks about things. And when I formulate a sentence, metaphysically the thing which it describes is there really. I take it as reality. But now you know, after Kant and Heidegger and so on, metaphysics has come to an end. That is to say, ordinary human common sense understanding, where we see things and we understand things as reality, is now questioned. Are the things which we see really real? Or are we seeing them in the background of our mental and subjective involvement? So there is a difference between reality and appearance of reality. For example, our old people in the village, how do they describe about the relation between the sun and the earth? Sun goes around the earth, right? Morning it was there, noon it is on the top, evening it is there. But you know the truth. What is the truth? Sun does not go at all. The earth is rotating around the sun, moving around. It's called heliocentrism. Previously the people thought, and even now the old people think in terms of geocentrism. That is, earth as the center, the whole world going around it. So, in the background of this change of thought, there can be problems. What was understood at the earlier stage of history, when we look at it today, in new categories and new ways of thought, it will look different. But then, truth is not different. Truth is the same, but the perception of truth is at one time at one level, at another time at a deeper level, and it progresses. History never stops. As long as humans are alive, history never stops. And so, perception of reality may go deeper and deeper and deeper. So, it may look as if the teachings at one time is different from what we are teaching now. It may look, but it is not a denial of the old, but a going deeper into the reality of the thing. For example, you have also the story of Galileo, the landing tower of Pisa. He has made a big experiment with that. You know, he put a big iron ball and a small ball with that, and he said both the big iron ball and the small ball will fall at the same time to the ground because the speed is the same. But people were thinking differently. He said the big thing will fall fast, small thing will fall slowly. So the speed of falling will be different. He said no. Then the people came with the idea of throw a stone from the top and throw a feather, small feather. Feather will come down. Will it come at the same speed as the stone? No. It will not come. So that is a proof. Then Galileo said, no, let us do this. And then he showed that things fall down at the same time. Feather comes down because of some other reasons more slowly. The resistance of the air, which the iron ball does not suffer from. So the appearance is one thing, a deeper understanding of the appearance is some other thing. It happens so. So this is one fact of our context. Today, we are at a different stage in history. And as I said, Vatican II can be taken as the standard form of accepting the modern thinking by the church. So before Vatican II, there has been so many ways of thinking which is metaphysical type of thinking. Metaphysical thinking takes the sentence, the duster is here, means duster is there. The modern thinking will take it more differently. Think in terms of Kant's categories and then the phenomenology of Husserl. I suppose you understand what I am referring to. You do not know the thing for what it really is. Thing in itself you do not know, as Kant says. We know only thing as grasped by our consciousness. So in our consciousness there are the categories, different categories of causality, depth, space, color and so on. I see all these causalities giving shape to this. What is this in itself? Is it as I see? The reality is as I see? It is questionable. Though I go around with my understanding of reality as it is, I use it for cleaning the board and so on. But if a dog looks at this, are you sure the dog sees it exactly as we see? Or a snake looks at it? It may not exactly, we cannot be sure. So the reality cannot be grasped by it in itself, in truth. What we know, what we understand is the appearance or the phenomenon as my consciousness grasps it. My consciousness. So I study the reality means actually I study the consciousness of the reality. So, when it comes to theology, I study the reality in terms of phenomenon, when we speak of phenomenology. Earlier thinking was metaphysical thinking. Things, is there. So things are in terms of being. Now we have become little wiser. Our consciousness influences our thinking. Supposing I have a blue glass here, and my consciousness is blue, thing will be blue. Or it is red, thing will be red. I think objectively thing is blue, then I will be a fool. It depends on my consciousness and the glass that I have. So we study the consciousness, and we use today the language of a phenomenology. Today, theology from the metaphysical point of view, it still remains in the mind of many people. It is a common sense language. Common sense language according to which the sun moves around the earth. But the true language is different from that. So phenomenology sometimes can show things differently about the matters of faith and revelation. You understand? It is challenging. You have to pay very conscious attention to what is being described, what is being said in the class, and try to grasp it without trying to cling on to the old things. And only then you will follow. The approach to truth is now greater, more honest and more correct when we understand it in terms of our consciousness and phenomenology. So theology in phenomenological language, that is the modern understanding. But the understanding of the people at home and the people of old is the metaphysical language, common sense language. So now metaphysics has come to an end. Old understanding has come to an end. And so phenomenological language. And so you may have to have a tweaking of your brain sometimes to do, so that the old concepts can be plugged out from your mind and new concepts can be planted. That is the greater truth in faithfulness to the Bible. Oh, Father, what is there in the Bible that is different from what you are saying? Some people may object. But what is in the Bible is more truly seen by the new understanding of phenomenology. What is seen by the Bible was metaphysically understood by the earlier generation and conventionally by the ordinary people and their understanding. We will get in theology class a new understanding of things. And as priests, when you become preachers, you have to communicate the new understanding to the people. Get them away from the old understanding so that they can live faith more deeply and have God experience more deeply. Otherwise, they will be limited to the shallow levels of faith and shallow levels of God experience. So, we have got this difference of thinking, and I would like to go back to the question of religious pluralism once again. Different religions are there in our society, and we are just 10%, around 10% of, 2% of the whole society, Indian society. And the larger group of people, they believe in different other religions. And what do I say as a Christian? Salvation is in Christ, only in Christ. Church is the means of salvation. If you are in the church, you are saved. That is what I will preach. But then supposing I preach like this, what will the other religions say? The Buddhist or the Hindu or the Islam? Islam will say, our religion is the right religion. If you don't belong to our religion, you are lost, kafir. Buddhists will say, our understanding, that is a true understanding. Hindus will say, there is no particular understanding about things as sacred. We have so many gods, so many ways of understanding the divine, and so many ways of living that. So we are not particularly limited to any one thing. we live according to our choice. We take one God or one understanding of faith and revelation and the divine, and we live accordingly. So we are in a difficult situation. Can we say what we say is the thing? Revelation, we have to understand in the background of this. Supposing people who are not Christians, there were people who belong to no religion. The context is different. Then we could say very much what we said. Our religion is the true religion. Our God is the true God. That means your God is not true. You have no God. But when the people, there is no God and faith in the people, it would go very well. Today, it would bring conflicts. But then, can we say that our faith is not correct? Can we say there is salvation outside Christ? Can we say that there is salvation in other persons? Go with it according to the old categories or conventional thinking. Metaphysical language is over. And today we have to take saying the same thing as so many centuries ago. Then we have got the atheists. Atheists are the reality of what we are saying. In what language can we speak of revelation, or in what language, in what way should we understand revelation? In what way should we live faith?